What is going on, everyone? Phil here. Welcome to DSPReacts, and welcome to my review of the Super Mario Brothers movie. Now, for clarification purposes, my viewing audience was asking me to review this movie since it was announced and had a release date back in April of this year. It is now July of this year. Because, as you know, I have a very busy life and work schedule. I really wanted to see if I could get to the movies to see it. Sadly, I just never did. And eventually, I did get to see it digitally on demand thanks to a fan. So thank you. Big shout out. You know who you are, who donated the movie for me to watch for this review. People have been wanting to hear my thoughts on this for a while. And I said, you know what? When I get a chance, finally, I'll do it. Now I had opportunity and access to it. And I watched it last night. And I have a lot of thoughts on it, actually. Although, admittedly, I don't know if my thoughts are going to essentially line up with a lot of people's. Then again, I didn't really read or listen to many reviews of the movie regardless. I just kind of listened to my audience's thoughts on it. It seemed like the consensus of my viewing audience over the months that it's been out is that it's pretty good. They liked it. They thought it was exciting. It was an interesting movie. Now, as you know, I'm a lifelong Mario fan. I started playing Super Mario Brothers 1 back in the day. I actually owned regular Mario Brothers for the Atari 7800. So I actually started playing Mario games before most people even knew Mario existed. I played every single numbered iteration since then. As a YouTuber in the last 15 years, I've played every single major Mario game that's come to market, even spin-offs and other things. I would consider myself somewhat of a Mario aficionado, although I'm not necessarily like a hardcore Mario fan. I'm not someone who's like absolutely lining up to do crazy runs in these games and playing them a million times. You know, a lot of these games is kind of a one and done deal for me. But I thoroughly enjoy them. I like some of the lore. I like the fact that every Mario game has a new creative spin and stuff to it. The color, the characters, the music, all of it. You know, first party Nintendo games is good quality stuff, and you know that every time you go to play them. So, when they were going to make a mainstream animated movie, as opposed to the live-action movie that I saw in the 90s in theaters starring Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo, which is a really good movie for all the wrong reasons. When I heard this one was coming out, I felt, wow, Illumination. These are the same guys who make Despicable Me, Minions. Those are really, really popular animated movies that have made ridiculous amounts of money. So you would think this movie is going to be taken very seriously and is going to be treated with respect. And this is the opportunity for video games to actually break into the mainstream with animation. And a lot of people were saying if this movie ends up being good and does well, this could be the stepping stone to see all of your favorite video game franchises, Nintendo in particular, but possibly even others, make it on the big screen and become big budget franchises. So, everyone was wondering, would this movie be good? But as you know, this movie did ridiculously well. It basically broke box office records. I believe they're saying it's like, as of today, like the second highest grossing animated film of all time, which is absolutely insane because it's only been out since April and it did that well. It's something like that. Like, it's just a crazy huge success story. And already you got, you know, people within Nintendo saying, oh, we're lined up. I mean, Zelda's probably next, and then we're going to continue on with other franchises, right? But was the movie any good? You know, or was it just that it was because it was hyped or whatever? Well, after watching it last night, allow me to give you my full thoughts, okay? From the moment this movie starts, you feel nostalgia, because the immediate thing that happens when the movie begins is they start playing the theme song from the Super Mario Brothers animated television show, which used to be called the Super Mario Brothers Super Show, late 80s, early 90s, I forget the exact time frame, but I used to watch this show. So it's actually an 80s and 90s kind of rap. Like, we're the Mario Brothers and plumbing's a game. You know, it's cheesy, but it's such a retro vibe because this is what you used to hear all the time when you were a kid watching that show. And the joke is that this is an ad that Mario and Luigi just took out to play on New York television because they're plumbers trying to get jobs, and this is the ad they purchased. It had that song in it, okay? It's kind of funny because the logos and everything in the ad are actually logos from their actual video games too, which is kind of neat. I was like, that's a cool way to kind of explain it. But it is kind of odd because you literally get like 15 or more minutes of backstory of how these two guys are literally regular plumbers in New York City trying to get work, and how their family doesn't really support them or believe in them that they can do it, that there's rival plumbers out there that hate their guts and think that they're a joke. And there's actually a running joke that Mario is short, which is weird. because I don't know if in the canon of the video games he ever was short, but in this movie, everyone says he's just a really short guy. I mean, he's shorter than all of his family members, okay? So anyway, to make a long story short, they get sucked into the Mushroom Kingdom by just happening to happen upon a random green pipe in a sewer, and they get sucked in, and they're separated. Luigi gets shot to one end of the Mushroom Kingdom, and Mario gets shot to the other end. Luigi's in the bad part of town. He's with the dry bones, undead skeleton Koopas who are chasing him. He ends up in a castle. He's being, harassed, and eventually gets captured by King Koopa and imprisoned. While Mario immediately starts running into more friendly folk, such as Toad, the denizen of the Mushroom Kingdom, who leads him to the princess. Once he talks to the princess, he finds out the backstory that apparently the princess is from another universe and at one point was warped to this Mushroom Kingdom and was trained to live there and eventually became the leader. Don't ask me why they would take someone who randomly wandered upon their kingdom as a child and made her the princess. Figure that one out. It's never really logically explained. But in reality, that's kind of the plot synopsis of this movie. Nothing is ever logically explained. Things happen, they continue to happen, there is a plot that's moving, but none of it actually makes much sense. So, the villain of the movie is Bowser, played by Jack Black. I think Jack Black does a reasonable amount of voice acting, good amount of voice acting for the character. But the plot is that Bowser has a crush on Princess Peach, wants to marry her, and therefore he traveled the galaxy finding power-ups and finally found the superstar, and felt that because he found the superstar, Toadstool will marry him. Why? Never explained. He just thinks she will. Alright? Even his denizens, the Koopa army, when they hear his plan are like, what? They even react like that. Like, what? That doesn't sound like a very good plan. But they have to do what he says because he's the big ruler and he's more powerful than all of them, so they got to do what he tells them to do. And so once Mario hits the Mushroom Kingdom and teams up with Princess Toadstool, or Princess Peach as she's called in this movie, their job is to try to find Luigi, who's missing. Well, Bowser captures Luigi, gets a wind of what's going on with Mario, and becomes insanely jealous, believing that because Mario has teamed up with Princess Peach that she might have a crush or feelings for him. And so now it's his mission to not only win over Princess Peach, but to also basically crush Mario, who seems to be his romantic rival. Meanwhile, that's not really happening in the movie. Like, there's no real romance between Mario and Princess Peach. It's just kind of like, they're trying to help each other out. Peach wants to defend her kingdom from Bowser's invasion, while Mario's just a stranger in paradise trying to find his lost brother. Now, the movie has ups and downs, twists and turns. There's a lot of cameo appearances. There's an entire plot line where they actually have interaction with the Kong people. Yes, Donkey Kong and his race are a race in the Mushroom Kingdom. That's not canon in the Nintendo universe, but in this movie it is. They drive around in carts that look oddly like vehicles from Mario Kart, although Mario Kart is never referenced and no official racing circuit is ever referenced. There's multiple driving scenes in the movie that are reminiscent of Mario Kart stuff. And let me put it this way. There's some things I really like about the movie. I like that there's a lot of Easter egg references. If you are a fan of Mario, you're going to get a lot of references in the movie as, I recognize that creature from a Mario game. Wow, they're playing this theme song of Mario music that I know from a Mario video game in the movie. And those themes permeate throughout. If you're just kind of counting Easter eggs, you're going to have like a giant notepad this stacked by the end of the movie saying, wow, look at all those references to stuff from the Mario franchises in this movie. But never really do they pan out to be anything important, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Another thing that I liked about the movie was the animation. I think the animation was absolutely top-notch. The lighting, the detail to the characters, to actually see Mario and all of the creatures of the Mushroom Kingdom be put into a full 3D perspective like this on a screen, as opposed to an interactive medium like a video game, but to see them in this insane amount of render and definition. You've never seen them in this much detail before. Hell, if you got a Nintendo Switch, that console's like a console generation behind in graphics. So to actually see the Mario characters look like modernized characters in graphics that you would maybe have on a current gen console is kind of mind-blowing and boggling. But as the movie goes on, which by the way only has about a 90-minute running time, it becomes a little bit more and more apparent that this movie is meant as a standalone feature and isn't really meant to be a way to explain the lore of the games, nor does it really feel like it really even has a direct connection to any of the stories of the games previous. It really is its own standalone story. No, the princess is not in another castle, but that's a joke that's made. Okay? There's no Koopa kids. All right? There's no geez, I mean, there's just so many opportunities for things that they could have done that would have made sense. How do we take the lore or the gameplay elements of Mario and turn them into a movie? They didn't really go for that. Essentially, the whole movie is Mario and Princess Peach running around looking for Luigi, trying to rescue him, eventually teaming up with the Kongs and becoming this combined force to take on the invading forces of the Koopas, and then fighting with the Koopas for the rest of the movie. And that's like the whole movie. There's really nothing to it. The gameplay elements of Mario Brothers really don't shine through. There's a couple scenes, for example, at the beginning, there's a scene where they're running through the streets of New York, and it's a 2D side-scroller that looks just like an old-school Mario game. He even jumps and grabs a flag at one point, okay? But never is he using the elements that you would have thought. Like, for example, why isn't he jumping on a Goomba and then kicking the shell and doing a big combo against the Koopas all the time, right? He doesn't do that. There's no classic Mario stuff. Is there fire flowers? Yes, but when you get one, all of a sudden it's like completely different how it would have been used in the games, you know? It feels like that. Even something like he has the cat suit. Well, he has cat powers, but is he using some of the cat powers from the game? Yeah, but he's also like super powered. Like now he's a superhero and he's flying around doing cat fu, kung fu. That's not in the game. You see? And it does that a lot. Like it basically takes the lore of the games and just turns it into its own entity and kind of goes way outside of the realms and confines of what we already know from the video games. And you might argue, well, that's good because that's original. But the question is, who are they trying to appease with this movie? Because in 90 minutes of runtime, there really isn't much substance to this movie at all. There's a lot of action. There's a few laughs along the way, but it never really feels at the end of the movie like, wow, finally Mario made it to the big screen, and we got to see all those things that we loved from the Mario games transferred faithfully. It feels nothing like that. It's like they didn't bother trying to be faithful. They just wanted to get those elements on the screen in any mishmash, smashed way, and it doesn't feel like Mario at the end of the movie. The end of the movie is so weird. Without spoiling, there's a big resolution where Mario and Luigi finally kind of man up and team up, and they face Bowser mano a mano, and through this clever tactic, they beat him. But the question is, why wasn't that clever tactic ever used earlier in the movie? This is an element that was introduced early on in the movie and was forgotten about till the end. You could have literally beaten him at any point in the movie using this, but you didn't remember it till the last minute of the movie so that you can have your happy ending resolution. Also, and this is a minor spoiler, but I will tell you, it's so odd. At the end of the movie, the Mushroom Kingdom spills into real-life Brooklyn, New York. And all the people there are like, huh? But it's funny because at first they're all like, what the hell's going on? What are these giant turtles invading? And then within seconds, it's like, fine. Everything's fine. Like, what? Like, they're not freaking out? They're not ripping their hair out of their head that interdimensional creatures are invading New York? Oh, no, it's fine because the Mario Brothers are here and they're saving the day and everything's happy. Like, what? No! A dimensional tear just opened. Are you not losing your mind? Are you not like, you know what I mean? Like, they act like it's nothing. And so at the end of the day, after watching this movie, I have to conclude it's a children's movie. This movie doesn't have any kind of complex plot line. It really doesn't even have much of a coherent plot line. It's just, we got to do this. Now we're going here to do this. Now we're going here to do this. Fight, fight, fight. Go to here to do this. Fight, fight, fight. Go to here to do this. Fight, fight, fight. You don't see any character development in the characters besides Luigi. There's one moment of character development at the end of the movie, and that's it. Everyone else just kind of stays in their lane of who they are, and there's a lot of action that's just kind of frivolous action that doesn't really go anywhere. Like I said, there's tons of references to Mario, but none of them are really utilized to explain anything or make it feel like anything is of worth. Here's a perfect example. In one scene, they'll start playing a theme from Super Mario Brothers, the original game. Then all of a sudden, it transitions to an orchestral theme from Super Mario 64. And then all of a sudden, there's a song from Super Mario Galaxy. And if you know those games, you're like, oh, this is neat. But why did they do that mishmash of themes all together like that? Why don't they have a continuous running theme throughout the movie that's the theme of the movie? If you actually watch great franchises like Lord of the Rings or Star Wars, they all have those synonymous scenes. Star Wars, dun 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 dun, or Lord of the Rings, you know, dun 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 dun, and you hear those in the movie, you get goosebumps. Why didn't they just use the Mario theme as the theme to hold this together and gel it together and play it through the whole movie? Instead, they just mishmashed random Mario themes and smashed them together. And then guess what else they did? They purchased licensed music. Yes, there's actual like mainstream music from other movies you've heard a million times. How many times have you heard Holding Out for a Hero in a movie? I've heard it in Short Circuit 2. I heard it in freaking Saints Row 3. It's been in so many comedy movies, and they got Holding Out for a Hero in the Mario movie. It's played out. It almost feels to me like the writers had an idea for what they wanted to do, but they just kind of gave in to common tropes of what's expected in kind of a generic action movie for kids, rather than trying to actually make this a Mario movie. Like, no exaggeration. You could remove all the Mario elements, and it could still be a good movie for kids, but it didn't really add anything having the Mario elements. I mean it. Like, it just didn't feel meaningful to me as a Mario movie. I would expect this is how we're going to take Mario to the big screen, introduce him to the world, and we're going to have all these cool, meaningful memes and tropes and things that are going to come out of it. You want to know the one meme that came out of this movie? Peaches. Do you know what that is? At one point, Bowser, played by Jack Black, sits down at a piano, and he's supposed to be the big bad of the movie, the ominous character threatening everyone, and he plays a love ballad to Princess Peach about his crush about her, where he's just like, I want to, treat you well for the rest of your life. You're going to be with me. Peaches, 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 peaches. And that's it. And every time he plays it, he gets interrupted. So it's not even like a full-length song. And by the way, the song's not funny. Like, it would have been one thing if it like big, hilarious punchlines and things. It's just not. It's just that the joke's supposed to be, oh, he's the big bad, but he's sensitive. Look, he plays the song. It's not even funny. Somehow it became a meme on the internet. I don't know why. The song's not good, and it's not funny, so why are we memeing it? Right? There was like almost no memeable moments in the movie. They tried hard, like Toad with his one-liners and stuff, but it doesn't really work. It kind of falls flat. And by the end of the movie, I'll be honest with you, I'm not even kidding you, I started nodding off at the end of the movie. I was bored because I was like, nothing here is really meaningful. The writing's kind of bad. It's definitely writing for kids. It's not really, doesn't have anything there for adults. And as a lifelong fan of Mario, I got bored of them just taking something from a Mario game and cramming it into the movie with no meaning, no explanation. It was not very good, honestly. Like, the actual visual style, amazing. Okay? The voice acting, perfectly fine. I don't care about having, Star-Lord as Mario. I don't care that Jack Black was Bowser. None of that mattered to me. They did a fine job in their roles. The problem was the plot was just not very good. It was boring. It droned on. For a 90-minute movie, I shouldn't be nodding off. I should be feeling like the movie's too short. It feels like the movie's too long because nothing of meaning is really ever going on, and it just kind of doesn't feel like you're going anywhere. The resolution doesn't feel very satisfying. And at the end of the day, when the movie ends, you're kind of like, I think they kind of missed the mark here. Like, the point of making a mainstream Mario movie should have been to convert the video games into a movie. Not, let's take random things from each game, smash them together, add pop culture references, add music that's licensed from pop culture, and just homogenize it into another Illumination movie. That's exactly what they did. And by the way, I'm a fan of movies like Despicable Me and Minions because those were original plots. Things that were made original, the first time you're seeing them. They weren't based on anything else. So when you're watching those movies, you're interested in where they're going. Here I'm like, when are we going to get to Mario Brothers? And by the end of the movie, you're like, we never got to Mario Brothers. We just saw a generic action movie for kids that happened to have Mario Brothers characters and music in it. So I didn't really like it. And I know that's going to be kind of disappointing for a lot of people who were hoping that I was going to say I loved it. I actually didn't really like it. I thought it was kind of meh. I was bored at parts. I was disappointed there was no running theme of Mario. I was really disappointed when they used the licensed music. The plot had no development whatsoever for 99% of the characters. They were just kind of there to be there. And at the end of the day, I felt like it was a meaningless story. Like, it didn't really tell anything. It just happened, and now the Mario Brothers are in the Mushroom Kingdom, and if they have a sequel, there's a little Easter egg at the end hinting at Yoshi being in the next one. Great, I guess. And there's going to be a next one because this one made so much money. But again, unless it has meaning. Like, for example, if the next one was Super Mario World and introduced the plot line that Bowser now has Koopa kids you have to fight, and there's a world taken over with these different, like, there's a chocolate land, and there's this different themed land, and Mario's doing all that stuff, that would be neat. But that's the thing, like, they didn't do that in this one. They had opportunity to utilize everything from the Mario games to make, like, segments of the movie. They didn't bother doing that. If anything, they did it for a quick montage and then went back to their kind of generic plot and missed on the whole point of making a Mario movie. So, great if Yoshi's in the next one, but if Yoshi's in the next one, it has nothing to do with Super Mario World, you kind of missed the point again. So, I didn't really like it. I'm sorry, the animation was the best part for me. and hearing some nostalgic themes and every once in a while an Easter egg. Outside of that, I was pretty darn bored. Like I said, I literally almost nodded off at the end of the movie. I was like, oh, I had to keep myself awake to try to finish it, and the ending sucked. So, yeah, I'm sorry. Maybe this movie was made solely for kids. Maybe I'm missing the point. Maybe this is a way to introduce Mario to children, right? Because I actually heard a lot of people around, even on my streams, but in real life, saying they liked the movie. Maybe if you're not someone who's played every Mario game, you're someone who's not looking for that in there, and all you care about that it's Mario, because you know what Mario is, then maybe you loved the movie. But for me, I was like, it wasn't what I want. It wasn't what I was expecting. Like, imagine if they make a Legend of Zelda movie next, but it doesn't have any of the elements of plot of Zelda. There's no major master sword. There's no Triforce. There's no Ganon, or there is Ganon, but he's generic and boring. It doesn't have the ominous tone of the character from the games, but instead they cram all the Zelda shit in there, but it's definitely just an action movie for kids with jokes and pop culture and shit in it. You'd be like, huh? Why'd they do that? They have all these awesome fantasy elements you can use to make an amazing story out of all those Zelda games and make a movie out of it. Imagine if they just ignored all those elements and instead said, here's a generic, another Illumination movie that just happened to have Zelda characters in it. That's kind of how I felt about the Mario movie. I hope they don't do that with Zelda, because Zelda, the lore is great. I mean, there's insanely good lore there to dive into. Why would you ignore it all? And that's what I kind of like they felt that they did here. I don't know what happened. So that's my review of the Mario movie. Honestly, I didn't like it. If I had to give it a thumbs up or thumbs down, I'd probably give it a thumbs down. I wouldn't even give it a meh. I'd be like, nah, I didn't really like it, you know? Sucks because I really wanted to like it, and at the end of the day, you know, I'm trying to be honest, I just didn't really enjoy it that much. I hope that if they make a sequel, it's more in line with what you would expect of the wonder and the lore of the Mario world, and having more of that treated respectfully and interestingly, rather than just saying, oh, it's a Mario movie, cram all that shit into 90 minutes and have none of it make any sense. I hope they do a better job next time. What did you think of the Mario movie? Leave a comment on this video. Let me know if I'm absolutely crazy insane, or if you kind of agree with me, or maybe you fall somewhere in the middle. I would absolutely love to know your thoughts. And of course, engagement helps this channel. So please, by all means, share your thoughts on the Mario movie. I'd love to hear them, but for me, no sir, I didn't like it. Thanks for watching my review, and I'll see you soon.